I think we should be good to go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome for the Thought Leadership Panel, proudly hosted by EthAum and Partners and Fennec Medical. This is Pankaj Gupta from EthAum and Partners. We are a deep tech revenue scaler and fund based in Singapore with approximately 120 startups in our portfolio. These startups are pretty global from different sectors and stages. We are hosting this panel with Fennec Medical, and we have Nadav on the call, who is the co-founder and CEO of Fennec Medical. Today, we are tackling a very provocative question beyond alignment, the missing breakthrough innovation in next-generation orthopedic surgeries. And in order to get a lot of insights and make this conversation very engaging, we have some experts who are going to talk about the orthopedic surgical innovations, the challenges, the bottleneck, the future, and all around that. And as you will see in the next few minutes, the panel is very, very diverse from different geographies, from different expertise and background. Before we dive into the panel, I would request our panelists to introduce themselves. I'll request Nadav, founder and CEO of Fennec Medical, to go ahead first. Nadav, please.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. So my name is Nadav Cohen, the CEO and co-founder of Fennec Medical. We're developing a AI-based co-pilot for orthopedic surgical procedures, and very much interested to hear what you guys have to say as part of this panel.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Nadav. And that's why you see the beautiful virtual background that Nadav has. Thanks a lot, Nadav, for joining us today. Tim, may I request you to go next, please?
Yes, I'm Tim Poore. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Post-Acute and Elder Care Platform. We are involved in the continuum of care for patients from the acute to post-acute care side. And I apologize about my background. I have it all blurred because it's a mess. So.
No, this is perfect. No worries, Tim. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Dr. Robert, could you please go next?
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here. My name is Robert Wang. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I'm also currently the head of our orthopedic surgery department at my hospital. I don't have a fancy background like Nadav. Same thing. It's a little bit messy, so that's why I blurred it as well.
No, fantastic. We are actually looking for your insights today, Dr. Robert, so that's perfectly all right. I would request Ayman to go next, please. Ayman?
Yeah, thank you, Pankaj, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege to be here alongside such distinguished panelists. My name is Ayman. I'm General Manager at EthAum and Medical, a company, health tech company specialized in digital transformation and automating the clinical workflow. This company actually founded by an orthopedic surgeon itself, and our focus is utilizing high quality of clinical data to streamline the care pathway, especially in orthopedic and trauma there. My foundation is actually in biomedical engineering, but over the last 17 years, my focus has been on corporate strategy, digital transformation, scaling AI initiatives in the market. Happy to be here and learn from all the team.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Ayman. Really appreciate your time today. Now I would request Soumitra to go ahead and introduce himself. Soumitra, please.
Yeah, thanks, Pankaj, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. So I'm Soumitra. I am based out of Bangalore. So I happen to be the lead partner for health tech of a VC called Klarus Capital. It's a thematic fund, and healthcare is one of the biggest themes that we serve. So apart from, in addition to this, just to give a little bit about my background, I've been into healthcare for about 17 years now. That's the lion's share of my whole experience. And it started with strategy consulting, having worked globally. And then I formed a health tech company myself. I've been an angel investor in addition to being the partner for this VC fund. That's all about me.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Soumitra. And obviously, if you are having a conversation on innovations in the healthcare space, orthopedic surgery, you have to have an investor on the panel. Otherwise, it's incomplete. So thanks a lot for Soumitra for joining us
No
today.
worries. Pleasure to be here.
Now, last but not the least, we have Dr. Shrutin with us. He is the moderator of the panel, and he has a huge responsibility on his shoulders. Dr. Shrutin, please introduce yourself, and let's get spicy insights from all the amazing panelists that we have on the call today. Dr. Shrutin, please.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. I'm Dr. Shrutin. I'm a medical doctor with a PhD in VLSI. I've been in healthcare all my life. And with Philips, I've been especially with the patents organization, and I work mainly on wearables. So yeah, that's a brief about myself. Yeah, thanks. Over to you, Pankaj.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shrutin. So, please feel free to take the insights from the panelists with the questions.
Pankaj, I joined 30 seconds late, so I didn't introduce myself. Sorry.
Please, Nir, go ahead.
My name is Nir Karasikov. I'm one of the founders, together with Nadav, of Fennec Medical. My background is a PhD in solid-state physics. Many years in the Israeli high-tech industry. You mentioned Philips. I worked a lot with Philips, the semiconductor, the medical, in the past.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Nir. Yeah.
Before Philips split to Thermo Fisher, ASML, etc.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Dr. Shrutin, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So welcome everyone. So let me start with the provider. So Dr. Robert, maybe we could start with you. If you could give us an insight into orthopedic surgery as used today with robotics and implants. And even though it has made a lot of progress, why do you feel that there could be a lot of patient dissatisfaction still? And where do you think providers, or what do you think providers expect from innovators to bridge this gap? Dr. Wang?
Thank you, Dr. Yep, thank you, Dr. Shrutin. Lots to discuss there, but I think first is that when we have improved our precision and calculation and bone cuts, we've really perfected reaching that technical outcome, which is the mechanical alignment. And I think initially that did help reduce a lot of the revision rates, particularly in the more complex primary total knee arthroplasty. I think as the robotics have become a standard of care widely adopted, we're starting to learn new lessons. And one of those lessons is that does neutral mechanical axis or mechanical axis falling through the center truly result in a better clinical outcome? Many patients will have had a sort of a bow-legged or varus alignment where the mechanical axis is more on the medial compartment for many decades. So you have a lot of surgeons that are also advocating for restoring their baseline anatomy. So rather than correcting them to a mechanical axis, which is perhaps sort of textbook optimal, when you do that, they actually feel very off, and that throws off a whole chain reaction. So their balance may be off. They may not be as comfortable. And so I think that that's the first question is, what is truly optimal technical outcome when it comes to alignment? And I think the second part is that we've also learned, healing and outcomes really is a holistic phenomenon. That in addition to perfect cuts and perfect component position, there's also the neuromuscular control. There's also balance, coordination. And I find the rehabilitation afterwards is extremely important. And finally, we're seeing increasing their sort of social environment, who's available to help them, who's there to help support their recovery journey. One of the panelists earlier talked about looking at the continuum of care. So the focus isn't just on entry treatment, but how does that patient recover well beyond their exit from the hospital doors? So I would say that all of those factors are sort of being discussed more and more in the field.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Wang. So let me move on to Fennec Medical, maybe Nir or Nadav, anyone could take this. So you have heard what the doctor said, what the providers expect. From your perspective, how do you think, because Dr. Wang made it quite clear that it is post-surgery outcomes are kind of holistic. So they involve not only the robotic correction, but also rehabilitation, which is quite important, pre-operative planning. So how do you think Fennec Medical is trying to address some of these issues?
So first of all, I agree, and alignment, or let's say robotics and imaging that support the alignment, they've done a great job, okay, in solving the, let's call it, geometrical issues. But when it comes to the actual bone implant interaction and soft tissue management during surgery, we're still relying on the doctor's experience and intuition, right? And I would argue that some of the reasons that we reached a plateau is because we've hit the limit of technology, where we reach the reliance again on the subjective intuition that hasn't changed, and for the good. No, I mean that it's good that they haven't changed for the past 30 years. Now, I also think that it plateaued because there are additional complications that are not addressed. I think Dr. Wang said that in a way as well. Current robotics, the alignment doesn't address it. These technologies ensure that the implant is placed correctly in the right angle, but they're blind to the structural integrity of the bone, for example, and they do little to prevent issues such as intraoperative fractures or undersizing, for example, in hip that can lead to subsidence or loosening. And I think a trend now that is happening is that surgeons are relying heavily now on tech for alignment, but some of them lack the deep intuitive feel for the bone that comes with repetition and experience. Ideally, technology should fine-tune surgical techniques. They should support the learning process of the surgeons, of the new inexperienced surgeons, and effectively enhance rather than hinder the doctor's growing intuition as he or her progresses. So this is what we are trying to tackle.
Yeah, thank you, Nadav. So, Nir, would you like to add anything to what Nadav said?
Yeah, I like to. And I agree with Dr. Wang and Nadav. Alignment is foundational, and once a high standard of precision is achieved, the remaining variation shifts downstream in the recovery process into rehab and post-acute. And so, allowing that lift to take place in the OR allows for that focus to now, to see where we can have our greatest opportunity for improvement and outcome consistency.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So, Nir, you were about to say something, right?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So moving on, let me ask Soumitra. So, Soumitra, you have been on from a perspective of the VC and an investor. When you choose to invest into certain innovations, what would be the things that you would look at? What do you think would be something that would excite investors for an investment? What is the next big leap that an investor would be looking at?
So one thing is, I would take a leaf from what has been discussed so far. I think Dr. Wang and Nadav mentioned it very clearly. So today, if you see the missing piece, each of these elements, say for example, robotic surgery, then you have the improper alignment, Those things have been taken care of to a certain extent, to a good extent, I would say. And there have been sensors now, implants coming with sensors. But what is happening is the continuum of care is broken. For example, if you look at post surgery and post discharge, what's happening when the patient adapts to the real life situations, whether the implant is in place or there's some issue happening over there. So such kind of data intelligence is not, the feedback loop is not complete. So while we say that there is precision and accuracy, that has been achieved in each of these elements, such as your diagnosis or preoperative stage, intraoperative stage, and for example, the post-discharge, let's say you have sensors and all, this intelligence layer is not harnessed. So what is happening is, because of that, there is issues where there are challenges such as patient dissatisfaction, and even clinical outcomes are adverse. You have readmissions, you have emergency room visits. In fact, it had happened to some very close folks in my family. So that is one of the things that we definitely look at. So if you're building a technology, have you thought of integration with the other systems that work in tandem with it? Have you thought of that? Have you got a technology layer? For example, let's say one of the things I would say is implant stability, for that matter. For example, there was a lady who had, who breaks a femur bone, which is very rare. And, the implant is there and it comes so that one of the screws come out. Even if the alignment has been done to the best of the knowledge and to the highest level of precision, if such kind of things are not fed into the loop, it creates a problem, resulting in patient dissatisfaction and adverse clinical and financial and operating outcomes. So I would look at that. And even when you look at specific areas, what come to the top of my mind is implant stability and soft tissue balancing. But the most important thing is, how do you use the data layer and make sure that the products that you're building, the technology that is niche, or the products come with an additional level of intelligence. And that would be very helpful for the whole health ecosystem and drive more outcomes and make you completely differentiated. So that's what I would like to add.
Yeah, thanks, Soumitra. So that would be a good bridge towards Ayman. So Ayman, you said that you specialize in workflows using big data, AI, and so on. So as Dr. Wang mentioned, that looking at the patient holistically, and that was also resonated by Soumitra, what would you think would be the role of AI and big data in shaping workflows and improving outcomes and reducing readmission rates?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shrutin. I mean, with the excellent points mentioned by my colleagues, just to understand the impact of AI in the critical final minutes in the OR, we have to look at what AI does best. It's a pattern recognition at scale. So right now, as mentioned by the colleagues, surgeon's decision at the end of the cases, let's say soft tissue tensioning, stability is really based on individual experience and training, highly skilled, relies a lot on intuition. You can imagine it like the surgeon, they have like a mental library from the experience that they have, and they apply the intuition based on it directly. When it comes to the AI, what AI brings on the table is working as a digital co-pilot to the surgeon, utilizing the collective experience of tens of thousands of similar surgeries, having these previous cases with all variables like patient demographics, bone density, pre-op imaging, and linking this also to the recovery metrics in the post-operative. So AI in this case can provide a real-time decision support in these critical minutes in the surgery. Applying this to in a high-speed environment in the surgery, like in a seconds, can make a real difference in the surgeries, is like a complex knee reconstruction surgery. So that's what I do believe that yes, the surgeon, they have a mental library, but they don't have the scale and the speed. And the AI, they have a data ocean, and they have this scale and speed. And we see that even from my work in clinical workflow, we are already seeing the power of the structured data. The improved outcome is not coming only from surgery itself, but from AI predicting the post-operative complications and based on what happened in the OR. So my imagination that the future is a closed loop system where the data from the end of the surgery immediately informs the patient's personalized, for example, rehab plan. That's my perspective in this regards.
If I may add, can I?
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Ayman, first of all, I very much agree with you, and I love the phrase "mental library" because mental library to me it sounds like our intuition, right? The intuition that we built, and the idea that we can have a co-pilot that creates its own intuition, not based on a few tens of hundreds or a few thousands of surgeries, but like you said, hundreds of thousands and possibly millions of procedures. The black box intuition behind it is enormous. Now, you're talking about a closed loop for the whole, including after surgery, but let's say for us in Fennec, we're highlighting the intraoperative stage, and that is also can win so much from such a learning data, such a huge learning database, because of that intuition. I talk a lot about how the robotics and the technology today, they stop at some point. The doctor pushes away all the robotics and uses his hands. That's where the intuition lies. And we want to create a technology that takes the next step, that has that intuition, that can close loop on the robotics. If you can add that intuition onto a robotic arm, you can then try and converse and talk and think about where we can take the future of a robotic surgery.
Yeah, definitely. That's, I totally agree. I think that my perspective, AI will not replace the judgment. At the end, it augments the surgeon's judgment with a memory at a scale. That's something that I think that the additional that you can do here. And at Fennec and other digital companies working even in silos to solve this puzzle. But at the end, that's my dream, is to reach this closed loop for surgery.
If I might add, what we're talking about with the digital co-pilot and the mental library, this improves consistency and precision for the device. And under the current payment model, specifically Teams in the US, that reduces the downstream variation and has an disproportionate impact on the positive for both outcomes and financial performance for organizations that are associated within that Teams model.
Can I comment?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, of course, we all appreciate the tremendous achievements that can be gained by AI, and Fennec Medical are targeting this accumulated experience. But I think also it's important to prevent situation of garbage in, garbage out. I think that what we did, we started with core physics, basic principles, fracture mechanics, vibration, etc. And we have a confidence that scientifically what we are doing is correct, and it's also disruptive. Now, once you have a good set of sensor and initial algorithm, you prevent problems of hallucination of the AI, You prevent teaching the AI by failure. Because let's remember, we said hundreds of thousands. You need also a good database of failures. And in the way we are saying it, the AI is working to refine, to tweak, and you don't really need failures. Failures will happen, I assume, and will teach the system. But I think this is a major addition that we did, that we are not based only on AI, but on primary principles.
Yeah,
May
thanks.
I add?
So, yes, please go ahead. Yes.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think the interplay, the cooperation between the technology and the surgeon is a very important factor, because I agree with the panelists that the surgeon intuition really is so important. I think if we are to put ourselves in the position of the patient and ask, would you be comfortable having an AI co-pilot essentially making real-time decisions, or would you be more comfortable having your surgeon make those real-time decisions, but with AI support? I think that working relation between technology and the human surgeon is really where the future is going to be. And I think that as a surgeon, I can't emphasize the importance of the years of experience, the fingertip feel one develops after decades of and seeing so many cases, and being able to make that right judgment call for the patient. Of course, humans are not perfect, and this is where I think that AI piece and the technology piece can really supplement the decision making.
Yeah, so I had, building on it, another question, Dr. Wang. So from a learning curve perspective for a new surgeon or a surgeon working with robotics and implantation using AI for the first time, what do you think can improve the adoption of newer technologies that could help innovators help surgeons to reduce the learning curve?
Yeah, I think probably looking at really understanding the clinical process, being in the operating room, for example, learning the steps of the operation. And really, I think the key there is identifying where's the gap. So the other day I was talking to colleagues and I said, all surgery, once you've mastered the steps, it's not super complicated because you've done it repetitively. But what makes it challenging is sometimes you run into difficult anatomic spaces, and you don't have the precision tool to get there. And I'm speaking of orthopedics. And so if you had the precision tool that had the right curvature, that had the right size, and you're able to get into a tight space, then you can make that procedure even more precise with minimal morbidity and contact and trauma to surrounding tissue and cartilage. So I think understanding where are the gaps in that technical process and then addressing those gaps.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dr. Wang. Let me move on to Tim. So Tim, I would like your perspective on reimbursement models and how would you look at new technology to fit into existing reimbursement models, or do you think there would be an extensive health economics study that would have to be accompanied by new innovations?
So many health systems to begin with have like a value analysis committee, right? And so and they already take in that sort of like that their personalized metrics or personalized KPIs to sort of like address those factors. So what we're really looking at here though is the question is not so much as like what is most advanced technology, because you're really that can be a subjective matter, subjective decision based upon the current environment that health system is operating in. But we're really looking at what moves the needle on the total episode performance. So the functional recovery, the readmissions, and the total cost of care. So if a technology improves alignment but doesn't really affect those other instances, it's going to have a little bit of an uphill battle. And so they're going to need to be able to show that that not only do we improve alignment, but this is the result downstream. And if they're able to also to, let's say if there's something that's not really moving let's just say readmissions numbers aren't really changing, that they also have an explanation for why that's the case. It could be other factors, social vulnerability index, or whichever it may be for that health system. And we could say that that robotics clearly improve outcomes for patients, and yes, they do. A great lift on precision. But next step we need to also is demonstrate the consistency and the impact across the full recovery cycle.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So let me move on back again to Fennec Medical. So could you, Nadav, could you throw some light on soft tissue balancing and other issues that may be there during intraoperative procedures that can help orthopedicians improve patient outcomes? What are your views on that?
Yeah, so at the risk of being repetitive, not only soft tissue, but any sort of tissue interaction and implant interaction with tissue and bone, I think is definitely a missing variable today in today's technology. The solutions today, like everyone is saying here, allows for precision, but they don't take into account soft tissue balancing. They don't take into account the tightness of the tissue for stability and so on. It's hard to do that. And this reflects on what Robert said. It's based on the doctor's intuition and experience. Now, we have one of our founders is also a lead orthopedic surgeon here in Israel, and he said that when he was taught the work, they told him, listen, you need to break a few bones before you learn how to do this. Right. Now, so we need to, especially in today's market, with what Tim has said, with the whole move to the teams and the whole bundle-based care and so on, we need, and also, also the move to outpatient clinics is very, very important. The margins are so low, we don't have any options for complications, and specifically for intraoperative complications, and specifically for short-term post-operative complications. Those are all are not covered by they're covered all by the bundle. So we need solutions that reduces these type of complications, and therefore it is my take that these complications are complications that arise during surgery, a lot of them, and this is what we are trying to do.
Yeah, thanks, Nadav. So let me move on to Soumitra. So Soumitra, you've heard quite a lot from the innovators as well as from the healthcare professionals. So from an investor perspective, what would be your view on investing or reducing? Looking at the regulatory pathway clarity, the clinical data strength before you decide to, or the regulate or the reimbursement strategy before you decide to invest into one of these solutions.
Yes, Shrutin, I think there's been a very good discussion so far. Starts, what you say, hovered around the point elements such as intraoperative care, and then doing across the continuum of care and all that kind of co-pilots also is a very interesting topic. So let me just extend the discussion into one fold. So it's just not for this orthopedic or robotic. Typically, if you say medtech as the universe, or not just medtech. If you look at AI-powered diagnostics and AI-powered therapies also, there's a lot of time spent in the preclinical validation, and then the clinical validation adoption, then it goes the whole way. So when we look at startups, and I particularly, if you ask me that question, the way we look at it is in two parts. One is very specific to medtech and clinical devices. And then there are certain basic steps that we follow for the VC, for a part of our VC norms. Now, if you look at the very specific things that we see, the first thing that I look for is the journey that has been. The journey might have been a few years, but it is worth. And I see several startups who have really done well, not just in these kind of, what you say, these tools and associated technologies, but in areas like even going far up to drug discovery and all that. The first thing is the background and the kind of background of the founders, the kind of associations they have made. When I say associations, it's with the hospitals, the academia, there is the known research entities, and then obviously the, what you would say, the key opinion leaders, not just their advisors. So that journey becomes a very important part for us to see how they have progressed and who have been the supporters for that journey. For example, if you look, whether you see in US or UK or India for that matter, one of the things that stands out is the support from the national incubators, who bring in a lot of expertise into biotech, the opening of sandboxes, the door opening they do for preclinical trials and all those things. So the way they have advanced gives us a set of confidence. And while doing these things, one important trend that is happening with most of the startups that, what I would say is which separates the men from the boys is, as they're doing these things, they're actually working with other, potential partners, for example, who could be a licensing partner, who could be a distributor, who could be for example, a tech integrator for that matter. So that, you are basically pervading across the continuum of care. And those are the ones which are standing out. So now these are some of the things that we look at from a point of view of preclinical validation, how the journey has been, who has invested in them, where have they gone so far, and once they get the clinical validation, how fast they can scale. So that becomes the very specific nuances. Now coming to the basic nuances that you see, obviously, let's say you are creating a product for spine surgery. So let's say you have got the technology there, you have got a layer of artificial intelligence over there. So are you going to stay put in it, or are you going to start with that product and then spread for propagate further towards other areas, so that your entity becomes a platform rather than just a product? So that's the second thing that we see. And third thing is obviously the applicability of the solution. Like for example, if you do something around a robotic knee surgery or a spine surgery, I think it's universally applicable. So whether you're in India or Israel, you can go to the US, where you can probably get higher average order values. But if you look at some startup which is doing, let's say, something about HPV, so the instance of HPV would be more common to low and middle income countries rather than the US. So our objective is, if that startup is doing well, has it got the potential to get an FDA? How good are the trials? Who they have partnered with? Because you need to probably, these things would perform better at a global scale rather than local scale. That's our views. So to sum it up, it's a mix of very specific nuances which I talked about, the journey, how they have begun, where they have been, and some very differentiating factors with respect to moving from one product to a bouquet of products. And even things like, say, for example, let's say you are a startup which has been looking at the joint load when the intraoperative surgery is performed. But if you're able to, let's say, simulate something and get to a concept of stuff like a digital twin, it improves your chances of success as compared to other startups. So these are some of the things that we look at. It's a very risky game, but obviously it's a very high risk, high reward game if things go right. And then the way they are, whether they're positioned to go for further rounds of funding, or there could be a potential of an acquisition, or what I would say, large alliances with the for example, Philips, GE Healthcare, or for example, some of the larger implant organizations. So this is the kind of framework that we look at typically.
Yeah, thanks, Soumitra. So this is actually nobody had mentioned digital twins so far, and all different stakeholders use digital twins for different purposes. But let me throw the discussion open to anyone of the speakers on digital twin. Does Nadav use it for training his surgeons? Does Dr. Wang already have digital twins to for pre-operative planning, or whether Tim or Ayman use digital twins for their workflow planning? So yeah, it's open to anyone. Yeah.
I can say a few words. I very much believe in digital twins as a way to scale and quicken learning and research. I have to say, though, that in some cases it's highly resource complicated, not necessarily always a fitting stage for a young startup, let's say. But it's definitely something, if you can build a reliable twin, for example, in AI that you can train your model on, it's very, very good. But I must say that specifically, let's take hip replacements. There's a lot of variations, and like Robert said, the AI layer is actually, or maybe it was Tim that said it actually, that the AI layer can be used to work through the high variability in this type of surgeries. And variability is something that is hard to work with sometimes with digital twin. So I'm very much for it. But in this case, where we're talking about a lot of times outliers, right? We're talking about very successful surgeries, 95%, 98% in hip success rate. In knee, maybe dissatisfaction is a bit higher, but we're talking about successful surgeries. So in order to scale from 95 to 98, from 80 to 90, we need to look at the variables, at the outliers, and it's sometimes hard to get that from digital twin. But apart from that, I think if you can do it, it's an amazing tool.
Yeah. If I may comment, I agree. Digital twin is heavily used in many industries. Semiconductor fabs are all modeled. You can do trials in the virtual domain in order to improve. But the one point where it is not strong is in malfunction, like fractures. It means that something unexpected happened. And I think the way to learn it, either with algorithms or AI, is more effective.
I would agree on that as well. And we looked at digital twin a number of moons ago. And one of the other areas that we saw was that, again, when the system breaks, does the model have the ability to understand the universe that it operates in and provide a solution that will solve it, or provide assistance in solving that? And and since their development of like a digital twin for what our work is, there's been several models have come out that step towards that realization.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So coming to Ayman, since you work with workflows and AI, I was always wondering about recovery solutions. Like personalized rehabilitation and computer-aided rehabilitation. So, do you have any comments on how it could support robotic surgery and implantation by having very specialized, personalized recovery programs?
Yeah, I mean, linking, the recent topic, which is digital twins to this. I think that, I mean, the doctors gave excellent points regarding clinical heritage challenge for such technologies, but I will take it from aspect of the operational side, the technology side, and the commercial side, which I have major experience on that with OR solutions in workflows and in like computer vision one for OR also. The issue is that the biggest killer for this is the disruption of the workflow. If you're talking about digital twins or the stabilization AI-enabled technique or computer vision or the recovery rehab, also advanced AI enablers, you could have the groundbreaking sensor technology, but the problem is if you add more time to procedure, you requires a lot of logins with different stakeholders. If your systems doesn't speak to the existing system, the issue that the adoption will be very risky. And from our work with the OR, we learned that something critical, that these innovations happens at the device level, yes, but the adoptions happen and the commercialization also happens at the ecosystem level. And currently, the barriers that making by each vendor building their technology, they don't integrate with the surgeon's workflow. So having this in mind, I mean, in the design with the entire surgical team, not only for the surgeon, but involving the OR nurses, scheduler team, the rehab team, the IT admin team also. And it's not only about the clinical superiority, it's about the operational efficiency. If it's truly showing that saving time and post-complication reduction, the adoption in this regard is non-negotiable. So I do believe that when the OR team start asking for it, is the shortcut to have the system and to prove it, not by mandating it. This is in short what I do believe, that in such technology like digital twins and rehab recovery, there are many startups that working in this domain, but what I see missing is this the ecosystem integration and integrating in the workflow of the surgeons and all the stakeholders in the OR.
Yeah, thank you, Ayman. So let me return to Dr. Wang. So Dr. Wang, what is your opinion on patients' expectations of robotic surgery and implant surgery? So one of the papers that I was reading, I find that younger people have a lot more expectations from robotic surgery, which sometimes results in a lot of dissatisfaction at the end of surgery. So what are your opinions on that, and what could be an advice to the innovators here?
Yes, so you're absolutely right, Dr. Shrutin, that patients are now requesting, or at least asking, to have robotic surgery. I think, obviously, with the other technologies, there's this, what we call the democratization of medicine. So I think the society in general, they're very well educated about this. And that does set a certain level of expectation. And so you're right that once they receive it, if they don't get the exact outcome that they had anticipated, then that's where I think we reach what this panel is discussing today, why there's a plateau. I think that to go back to Ayman's point, and that kind of answers your question, for innovators, is to recognize the complexity of that operational flow within hospitals, and where does the technology or the solution, how is it synergistic with the entire flow? And it's a complex process. It's a complex problem. You can have the world's best technology, but if it significantly disrupts flow and impacts the various departments, nursing or sterilization core or anywhere else, that will slow down the entire process. But if you have a solution to integrate and synergize with the operational flow, in addition to clinical support, technical support for the surgeon, that's where I think that alignment becomes smooth. And that's where I think you can get all stakeholders excited about the innovation.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So coming back to Nadav. So Nadav, you spoke about how robotic surgery has increased the accuracy and patient outcomes even to the level of 95, 96%. So my expectation would be that to increase the accuracy or outcomes even better, then there would be from a health costing perspective, to cause a unit increase in patient outcome, a lot more, the cost effectiveness would actually reduce, because it's a law of diminishing returns beyond a certain level of accuracy that you can achieve. So with that in mind, and with the panel that you have heard now about areas where there could be a scope for more innovation, how would Fennec Medical look at it from that perspective?
Sorry, you're talking about the cost aspect?
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, we're talking to a lot of people from hospitals, and the margin issue is substantial. And the way to mitigate this, first of all, for us to penetrate that membrane and to be able to convince that we are doing something that eventually will actually increase margins, although it costs money. There's a lot of, that we need to prove that we can make a change, okay? It's not enough to bring in the technology. I think that ship has sailed already. You can't, all the margins are already choked from the robotic solutions. There is just not enough money to enter the market. The market became such that the patient asks for the robots, the hospitals have to give it. There's not always a real clinical advantage, but the margins are reducing. And of course, that's not even taking into account other reasons why the margins are reducing. So we need to think of a very cost-effective solution that aims to deal with a specific cause for complication. Okay, we're talking about the variability. How can we deal with variability? And behind variability, there sits the complications. So a solution that is brought to the market needs, first of all, to have a clear connection of causality between the complication and the solution that you give. And this is exactly what we are trying to do with the addition of taking into account that the margins are low, and to penetrate, we have to give an initial cost point that is very low.
So can I speak?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I heard Nadav. In fact, see, one of the things that we look at, for example, as an investment perspective, when you're looking at, so there are two parts. One is you're approaching the hospitals and the medical health systems. Let's say there's a pushback based on the initial cost of the device or the cost of technology. But if you split it apart and go downstream and look at the whole continuum of care, especially the ones that are progressive might warm up to the idea about reduction of cost in the whole continuum of care or that whole longitudinal treatment that happens. Now, that is one way of doing it. The second way is some of the things, if they're supported by health payers, it becomes easy. If these models are still evolving. If you look at value-based care or outcome-based care, whatever you say in different parts of the world, that's evolving. But still, if it is a push through the payers, it becomes easier. Like, you have done this surgery over the whole course of the surgery, post, rehabilitation and all those things, is the cost of care being reduced or contained in addition to patient satisfaction. So those are some of the things that would definitely work when you look at the total cost of ownership versus a point cost estimate.
Yeah. Can I ask the forum a question?
Yeah, please.
Our partner, the orthopedic surgeon, we know this surgery is 95% successful. He said everything is great until it becomes ugly. When it's ugly, it's very ugly. So my question is, do you think that if customer understand it, I mean patients, I think in customer, they are willing to pay? Is like, why are we buying insurance? The chances that the car will be stolen are less than 1%, but we are buying it. If we from 4% we reduce to 2%, it's reducing by a factor of 2 the chances for a very ugly case. And we had a case in Israel now where by chance the auditor from the Israel Innovation Authority had hip replacement surgery and everything went wrong. He's suffering a year now. So my question is this a good argument, or this is too much of a romantic idea?
May I jump in?
Please,
Yes,
Dr.
please.
Wang.
Yeah, that's a very good point here. And Nadav, what he said about complications are hidden within the variability. So as a company, you guys are addressing the variability. I think that if we look at it from a systems level and a macro level, absolutely the numbers look good. But when you're the receiver of that care, if you happen to be within that 5%, and we know that when complications happen, it happens badly, that's the gap. We really need a solution to help those patients recover. So this is where I think the focus, it makes a lot of sense, and to just tie in the cost issue, because ultimately it comes down to what hospitals and I think regulators are looking at are things like the clinical efficacy, ultimately the economics, and then you have to take those two things through a complex multi-layer system of regulatory processes in order to be successful. And even then, when you are faced with larger players and how to enter into that market, it becomes a whole separate discussion and challenge. So I think overall, very, very complex, but also very exciting at the same time because there are opportunities.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So we're almost on top of the hour. So let me have a round robin of your vision in one sentence over the next 5 years. Where do you think orthopedic surgery would be headed to? And yeah, what is the vision? Yeah, we'll start with Ayman.
Yeah, thank you, Shrutin. So I will just focus on make it patient-centric. I mean, to remember that all of these technologies, we are aiming to improve the outcome and having a great patient experience. And in terms of orthopedic surgery, I mean, when technology turn the uncertainty, the surprises into very clear path, and transforming the surgery in front of the patient to a not one-time event, but like a predictable journey, a predictable step-by-step recovery journey. That's the goal. And today is, let's say we have OR navigating by a compass. But tomorrow, I do believe that we need to OR and the team of OR navigates by integrated GPS with real-time satellite feedback, live data, predictive routing. That's the future that I think we are aiming in. That's a living model that's learning, optimizing in real time. That's also having the ability to interoperable real-time data capturing all the time. So I can say it's all about the continuous of intelligence. That's the tagline that I can use.
Yeah, exciting. So let's move on to Tim.
Yes, I really feel that innovative tools are essential, especially in this space. So but the next phase, of course, is integration, and the systems that connect those innovations across the entire continuum of care are going to have the greatest impact.
Yeah, thank you, Soumitra.
Yeah, so if I were to look at probably funding someone or looking at it seriously, I would look at novelty in the product plus a layer of data intelligence or embedded technology, as you say. That's the path to future.
Yeah, thank you. And over to you, Dr. Wang.
Yeah, very insightful, and appreciate all the insight from the panelists. I would say that the final thought really would be just to really think about what question or what gap is that technology piece addressing, as well as understanding the complexity of the environment that technology is being introduced in, and building relations with the stakeholders, and understand that sometimes these things take time, although I realize that scaling up fast is the goal. I think that's relative. There will be fast, it may not be within a year, but again, I think speed obviously is the goal.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Wang. So over to Fennec Medical.
What I took some points here from what people had to say, and first of all, I very much like the point Dr. Wang said regarding workflow and how not to interrupt the workflow. In addition to that, there are the margin aspects. So, with the move to ambulatory and outpatient clinics, we just, those places, complications are pretty much not allowed, okay? They don't have on the shelf to bail out expensive advanced implants and so on. They don't have the time, they don't have the infrastructure. So they need fast solutions that come to fight specific complications that take the time and create the actual complication. Like I said, a causality is very, very much important. And if just to put my 2 cents as part of Fennec, the issue of sensing and the algorithms and the data that allows to add a layer of, let's call it, how do you say, mental library and intuition to the devices to co-pilot the surgeon is what I would be looking for in the next few years.
Mir?
You're muted.
You're on mute, Neesh.
Many years ago, I encountered the competition between digital computing and optical computing. And digital won by far. Now it's coming back. So I think we all understand that software and hardware are running so fast and enabling so many new things. So the challenge will be for this super machine to have good data, to have good sensors, to have good algorithms. So you don't win only by horsepower, you win by multidisciplinarity.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, this was an exciting panel discussion. And yeah, thanks everyone for your vision and also your time to be here. Over to you, Pankaj.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Shrutin. I think you have been a fantastic moderator. Because of your expertise in the space, you have been able to really, grasp all the right insights from the seasoned experts that we have on the panel today. Thanks to all the panelists for being with us today and sharing your insights on the orthopedic surgical innovations, adoption challenges. One thing that we could not talk about enough is the regulatory framework. What kind of regulation improvements we may want to see for better innovations and adoption in the future. Hopefully, we will have another topic, another session in the future to talk about everything on the regulatory aspects from different parts of the world. Again, thanks to all the panelists for joining us today. It has been fabulous conversation with you. And I'm sure that we will find more such opportunities to connect, share the knowledge, and probably create collaboration opportunities. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It was a pleasure.